In this video, we'll be seeing FPL Matthew's current team reveal. This is a man who has 3 top 500 finishes in Fantasy Premier League. So I'm really excited, Matthew, to see who you have in your current fantasy team. First of all, mate, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. You?
All good, mate, all good. As I said, one of the most illustrious FPL histories out there. So who better to have a team revealed to us right now? So, mate, let's get straight into it. As always, building this live on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool. If you guys want to do the same and get a team rating, link is down below. Who have you got in goal?
Okay, so this is the draft that I currently got up on my team reveal article. I'll probably be doing a second draft after this weekend. So I can tell you who I've currently got, and I can also tell you, some of my thoughts at the moment. So in goal at the moment, I've got Jordan Pickford.
Okay.
Now this is probably one of the positions that I'm least sure about at the moment. I think he's still a decent pick. I think Flecken, is it a Brentford,
Yeah.
could possibly be a slightly better pick, but I don't think there's that much in it. I think Pickford might get a few more saves. Flecken might get a few more clean sheets, and then obviously there's the new boy Onana at Manchester United, who looks quite tempting at 500,000 more. So that position could change probably between those 3 at the moment.
But for now, Pickford is in. Okay, yeah, good.
Yes.
Opening fixtures makes sense. Are you going to partner him with a rotating keeper, or are you going for a budget option on the bench?
No, I'll just put a budget option on the bench.
Okay.
I just got his teammate Virginia at the moment.
Nice.
Don't know much about him, but I guess if Pickford happened to be injured, he'd step in.
Sure.
If I did go for one of the others, then there may not be a 4 million sort of pair to go with. So then I might switch to a player who I think is more likely to get into the team than his kind of teammate. But we'll see.
Okay, moving on to the defense now.
Okay, so I've probably got 2 that are kind of more nailed in my thoughts at the moment, which are the 2 of the 5 million players. So I think there's probably 2 sort of slots or like brackets that I think are particularly strong this year. One is sort of mid-price defenders, so between 5.5. I think there's a lot of good choices there. So I think it's worth having at least a couple of those, if not 3. So at the moment, I think Estupinan, I'm quite set on. I think he can tick most of the boxes. Plays for a solid team, good opening fixtures. He's got the attacking prospects. He seems to be nailed on. I mean, even last season when they were playing, every midweek when they had all those double game weeks, everyone, we kept thinking he's going to be rested at some point, and he never was, and rarely seems to get subbed off either. So he seems to be quite a machine. So. Yeah. That may change when we get to their Europa League campaign, but even then, might be okay. And then the other one I've got is Gabriel at Arsenal. Sure. I just think he's very solid pick. I don't think people would have been surprised if he'd come in a bit higher than 5 million. So with him being 5 million, I think he's a bit of a no-brainer. The only downside of him is that you can't have another 3 Arsenal players.
Yeah, that's the deliberation, isn't it? Yeah. Do you triple up in attack, or do you go with Gabriel? Yeah.
I think he's too good to pass up, and I think him plus 2 hackers possibly is a good enough balance.
So those are the 2 5 millions that we do see in a lot of current FPL drafts, for good reason, right? Both really solid picks, perhaps a little bit underpriced, especially with Gabriel. The question is, do you have Trent in your team or not?
I do currently, but this is one so I'll probably just talk about the sort of next 2 together, which is I've got Trent and also John Stones.
So wow, both of them.
Yeah, so I've got a kind of 4-4-2, which can pivot to a 3-5-2 type thing now.
Nice.
But this is one of the things I'm thinking is to take some money out of the defence via either of those 2. You could possibly even both, but probably just one of them. And that's where I've kind of got a bit of a dilemma, really, whether just take money out of Stones. I mean, I think Stones is a good pick anyway, but you could take him out to maybe another 4 million defender, and then put that money. I could put that money in a couple of different places, or I could go the bigger option, which would be take Alexander-Arnold out to a much cheaper defender, and then that gives you a lot more money to play with. And realistically, what that would also let you do is probably add in another decent, another good midfielder, which I can talk about when I talk about my midfielders. And then the other one I'm thinking of there is one of the Chelsea fullbacks. So that would be kind of instead of one of those, and maybe take the other one down to a cheaper one. So maybe Chilwell's looking a bit safer at the moment, but there's a couple more pre-season games to look at yet. So I'm going to look at those. I think also Porro at Spurs could be an option, although maybe a bit more risk, but he's a bit cheaper as well. So.
Yeah, as it stands, obviously just the current draft, but that is the most money I've seen in defense from anyone we've had on this series so far. But as you said, it's with the idea of having a kind of a hybrid 4-4-2, 3-5-2, so it makes sense.
I mean, really, I'd like to take Trent out, to be honest. It's just whether I'm brave enough to do that.
Well, I was gonna. How do you feel about that? You're a man that's had unbelievable success in the past, had a very good finish as well last year. Do you subscribe to this theory that you need to stay with the pack early in the season? Is Trent essential because everyone else might have him?
I think there is something in that. Yeah, you kind of almost want him to become less popular. So you just mind taking him out. But I mean, it all depends where he's going to play, because obviously he's had a lot of success playing in the kind of attacking fullback role traditionally. Then last season he became even more popular, if that was possible, towards the end of the season when he was playing that more inverted role, but more like a number 8, more was attacking. I believe in the first couple of preseason friendlies, he's played a bit deeper in midfield, and if he's going to be doing that, then he's just not worth that money. But then even then, you're kind of worried that he could hit, knock in a free kick. But really, it's kind of what I'm tackling with in my mind at the moment, is whether to just take the Stones or whether to go the whole hog and take Alexander-Arnold down.
Yeah, I have the feeling that one might keep being a deliberation for you up until the deadline, and a lot of other fancy managers.
Possibly.
As Matthew said, he's a hub contributor himself, so his final team reveal, as close to the deadline as possible, will be published live on the website, link down below, if you guys want to check that out for a more up-to-date team when we get closer to the deadline. But for now, that is a defense. Let's do the last defender, the sub defender.
I think at the moment I've got Bayer. Is that how you pronounce it?
I'm not entirely sure, but that's how the majority of people are pronouncing it.
So I think I've sort of toyed with him and Baldock. I think Baldock at Sheffield United is slightly more exciting, a bit more than Sacking. Probably plays in a bit of a better team, so but then at the end of the day, you're hoping you're not going to use them. But I think, obviously the other thing with Bayer is he's got that blank in game week 2. But then on the flip side, how likely you're going to need him in game week 2, and then that means you'll also have a double at some point, which I've heard could be fairly early, but we just don't know that.
Okay. That is it for the defence then. Let's get on to the midfield. It's going to be interesting, I think, to see how the lack of money now compared to other teams affects your forward line and your attacking players.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks okay at the moment.
Sure.
So the first one is a very popular pick, Rashford. I'd say after Haaland, he's probably the sort of second name on my team sheet. Obviously did, had a great season last season, just signed a new contract, so he should be bang up for it. And he'll either be playing on the left, which is his preferred position, and, cussing in all the time, or he might even play some games up top, which he has been pre-season. And, either or, he looks a really good option there, so I'm not too worried. My next one is Saka, another very popular pick. I'm not as sold on him probably as Rashford, but I think he's really a safety pick, because I think in the past I've suffered when I haven't had him, and I just have to bring him in. I don't know, he's one of them where when you look at his stats and his position, he shouldn't be as good as he is, but he's just such a quality player that he can just defy that. He cut inside, beat one or two men, and then smash it in or cut it across for an assist, so I think it's just risky to go without him. He's just so good, and again, nailed on probably on penalties. I'm not 100% sure if it's him or Jesus now, but
26 goal contributions last season.
Yeah, so
it's hard to argue with it, isn't it? It really is.
The pricing seems to be quite kind. They seem to have put the price of Trent up predominantly to try and make that a bit of a decision, but that hasn't worked that well. But then they seem to have made underpriced everyone else a little bit. So now, so I kind of thought Rashford could have been a bit more. Saka, I probably thought would have been more, etc. But just how they've done it. And then my third midfielder I've got in. So my third, sort of most expensive one as well, is Phil Foden.
Okay.
So obviously that's one to watch with, particularly the Community Shield.
Yeah.
But as long as he starts that one, then he should be good. It's also the first kickoff, so we may even get some indications.
True.
I think he's been priced at a price of 7.5, which I think factors in some risk of his minutes. Because I think if he was kind of a regular starter, he'd probably be like a million more than that. And I just think at the beginning of the season, with I think Gundogan and going, so there's less competition. So obviously City could go and probably will go and buy someone at some point, but that will probably take a while for them to get them in and bed them in. So I think at the beginning of the season, his minutes will be boosted, or his chance of good minutes will be boosted to what they normally are. So I think he could be a good one.
Yeah, he's a player that I feel like is going to potentially shoot up in popularity. Right now, only at 14% ownership, but I can definitely see that increasing over the next few weeks. As you say, if he starts that all-important Community Shield game,
if he starts that,
any role, if he looks good, he looks sharp,
decent.
Because you're right, he's one of those players that if he had guaranteed minutes, he'd be in the majority of teams. He's so good, and obviously plays for the best attacking side.
He'd probably be 9 million or something.
Yeah, but right now, a little bit of a differential. Actually, not a man that we've seen in a lot of teams. 2 Man City players already. You've mentioned Haaland a lot, of course. I'm sure he's going to be in your team. So tripling up on City. We'll get to that when we get to Haaland, but for now, that's 2 City in your team.
I mean, good, great opening fixtures. Obviously, the best team.
Yeah,
and won't have Europe at the beginning of the season, so it's probably the best time to have City play. The kind of thing, it gets worse as the season goes on.
Very true.
So we'll see. Stones is I'm on the fence about, but Foden I'm quite happy about him.
Okay, nice.
The first one's Solly March, and the other one's Mbeumo.
Okay,
so both the same price. At the moment, in my draft as I've got it, I've got Mbeumo on the bench. I think they're playing Spurs at home. I mean, that's not a bad fixture, to be honest. So I probably have a benching dilemma. And Mbeumo, obviously, there's a thought that he could be more central, more attacking, possibly with Tony being out. Brentford are a good team. He's a good player. He'd probably be on penalties, so make it the price tag look silly, really, 6.5 million. But there is still some uncertainties about him. There's some talk that is it Whistler or Visser? Could play more of the central role. So again, that's one just to keep an eye on. And then the second player I've got in at the same price tag is March. So I just think I'm kind of. I know that Mitoma's more popular in drafts that I've seen so far, but I mean they're both very good players. Mitoma's maybe slightly better player, but then he plays less centrally than March tends to play more centrally or cut in more. And Mitoma did drop off towards the end of last season, but I don't think there's much to choose between them. I think they're both great picks. But this is where I was saying with these 2 picks is where I could put some money if I did get rid of Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah.
So this would be the place where I would probably put that money into one of those. I'm not sure which one, or even Foden. If Foden didn't start the Community Shield. So if I was to have more money to put in here, then that would bring in another player around the 8.5, 9. And when I said at the beginning that I think there's 2 sort of brackets that look really strong, this is the other one. So it's I think mid-price defenders and then mid-price midfielders, as I call them, which I'm sort of classing in my article between sort of 7 and 9, and then sort of there's so much choice in that bracket that again I think it's worth having at least 2, 3, or even 4 in there, because even if you didn't get the right ones to start with, you can always switch quite easily to another one.
Okay, so that is the midfield. Obviously not 100% locked in, but money's really quite spread out, which I quite like. Although you have said, the benching headache game week 1 could be a problem. Yeah, I'm not sure how I personally feel about benching Mbeumo to Tottenham, but it means you have a strong depth, which it clearly is very important.
Yeah, I mean, I generally quite like having a good first sub, because it gives you quite a lot of flexibility in terms of, well, also you can rotate, but also beyond that, say one of your players is like a slight doubt, but it looks like it's just going to be a 1 game thing or a 1 game suspension. It means you're not forced into using a transfer to move them, because you can just go, well, I've just got a good sub, I'll just put in there for a week, so you can give you a bit more flexibility, but it just depends. Whether you can do that at the beginning of the season, not always possible.
Well, these are the tips and advice from someone that's come in the top 500 3 times. So might be worth listening to. Yeah, I love that as well. Also means you could, if there's a transfer that you really want to make and you want to, it's perhaps quite an aggressive transfer or someone that you want to jump on, you're not stopped by an injury in your team. So it's
exactly. You're not going to force. Yeah, if you've got 3 rubbish subs, you find that you're like forced to like change a player, even if you're like, I don't really want to, and they could be back the week after,
Yeah,
but then you
makes
always
complete
want to bring
sense.
them back. So there is advantages.
Right, so one man that is obviously in your team is Haaland. You've mentioned him a few times
Yeah, I did
already.
give you a spoiler at the beginning there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's ignore him on his own because we've talked about him. Everyone knows how good he is. Let's talk about
Yeah.
Triple City because honestly, this is one of the only teams. It may be the only team. Even Double City is quite rare, having Stones in there, but
Yeah.
then having Foden as well. Triple City, as you said, it makes sense given they're the best team in the league.
Yeah.
Why don't we see more people on that?
And also, particularly with Foden, by having Haaland, it doesn't really give you any advantage. You're
Yeah,
not really invested in City effectively because he'll have virtually full effective ownership. So, every time you score, you're just like, well, so what? It makes no difference. But I suppose if you've got another attacker, and Foden probably looks the best one at the moment. You've got another sort of lottery ticket in that City attack, which where you will get benefit from them scoring.
no, it makes sense. I mean, it is going to be for the start of the season anyway, pretty much a 14-player game. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Having Foden is pretty much like having one City player when everyone else doesn't have one. So 12 million left. Now you've said you're playing 2 up top, which means that obviously the minimum you can spend on one of those slots is 4.5. So a maximum of 7.5 for your second striker.
Well, I'll tell you the other one first because the other one is
Okay.
a 4.5,
Go for it.
as you guessed. And I mean, to be honest, that it could be any 4.5. I think at the moment I've gone for Woodrow. I did look up his first name. I think it's Corley.
Yeah.
Woodrow Wilson. He seems to get minutes. He won't necessarily get starts, but he's a kind of player that'll come off on the bench. If a better one emerges, then I'll switch it to him. I think is it Balogun is one people talking about potentially if he got a loan move. But then again, that could make it a 13-man game because you've got a $4.5 million Barca, half decent team. Everyone will have it. So yeah, that's my kind of.
So then the fun one, 7.5 million maximum to spend on a forward. Who are you going with?
Right. So hope I get the pronunciation right here. It's Nkunku.
Yeah, perfect.
Is that right? Nkunku.
Yeah.
So this is another one that I'm not 100% sure about, and I mean, ironically, one of the things is why I've become less sure of is the emergence of Nicholas Jackson.
He looks good
because he's perhaps more the number 9, and Nkunku is more like second striker or number 10. Then it makes me think: should I start with neither, and then see who looks the best, and then I think Chelsea's fixtures get really good from game week 3. So perhaps I could. I mean, this is boring as a guess, but I could put in Jesus start if I can find the money. So that that would essentially be where some of the money went if I downgraded one of my defenders. So they've got a really solid start fixtures. I'm not that big a fan of Jesus, but because I think he's quite wasteful. We saw that at City, where he was central striker. We've seen that at Arsenal, but because he's central striker for these good teams, he's kind of bound to score some goals. I think I could play in this Arsenal at the centre and get a few off my backside probably. And they,
I'd love to see it. I really would.
Yeah, yeah, maybe not. So if you had Nkunku, then you stare at Lucian at home. It'd be quite brave to take him out, even if you take it out for another his teammate. Whereas if you had neither, then you can assess it and go, right, I'll get this one. Maybe Jackson got a bit more risk. I don't know. I'm not sure whether he has or not.
So that is the team. Very strong. As we mentioned, very strong first bench option. You said earlier that you would probably consider benching Mbermo for game week 1?
Yeah, at the moment, that's
okay.
what I've got how I'm set up if I go with that team,
Yeah, so that is what I've got it as on the screen. Now it comes to the all-important moment, Matthew. Your team rating.
Although I think I get a higher rating if I put him in, to be honest.
Well, he does have higher predicted points than Estupiñán and Stones and Foden.
And a few of them, I think.
And Nkunku.
But let's go with it as it is.
But you got to do what you do. You got to do what you do.
Yeah,
okay. So the team rating is 94%.
Oh, all right. So that's crept up a bit because I think it was 92 when I first did it.
Really? Okay. Team getting stronger.
So
AI liking it more.
obviously, how it's liking my picks.
Yeah. So a game week rating for game week 1 of 92%, which is pretty good. But for the first 5 game weeks, which is what the team rating is, 94%. That's the first bench option.
That's
way more important.
Rating.
Yeah. For sure. Now, if you want to go ahead and try and beat Matthew's score, I mean, fair play if you can beat it. He's come in the top 500 3 times. You're doing pretty well to beat that. Link to do so for free is down below in the description. and the pinned comment. Also, the hub is running right now an amazing deal, 50% off on signups before Game Week 1. And also, if you do not win your mini league this season, you get all your money back. Terms apply there, but a pretty phenomenal deal to get you signed up and to take advantage of these recommended AI transfers, which we're going to get into right now. Okay, Matthew, so here we are. Here are your AI recommended transfers. And I've got to say, they're actually quite compelling because they kind of go against what we've seen from other teams' recommended transfers. Okay. So Stones, off the bat, Stones is the mate weight here. It's saying that you're a little bit too light in other areas of the pitch, I believe.
Yeah, which is kind of in line with what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah. So whereas in other managers' teams, we've seen Stones be the recommended transfer in. So clearly AI loves the pick. Here, Stones is being sold to Bulldog at 4 million to fund other things up the pitch.
Which, to be honest, is what I'm thinking of that exact move, yeah.
So funding that, Foden is one that's sold. Now, I guess that kind of makes sense right now, given what we know about expected minutes, and that's going to come down to your personal, your personal thoughts on his minutes, right?
Yeah, but I think like you're saying, if he starts the Community Shield and it does okay, I think his expected minutes will go up. So I then would expect this tool to rate him higher. And obviously, if he doesn't start, then I'll just take him out.
Of course. So for now, it makes complete sense. But so Foden is gone for Bruno Fernandes, a man that you've not talked too much about. And Nkunku is the other one that's gone for Jesus, a man that you have talked a lot about. So what about Bruno?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my thoughts. I mean, to be honest, they're great moves. I think that they suggested would be even easier, obviously, if I didn't get Trent. Yeah, he's definitely my thoughts. I think obviously Rashford was probably my preferred pick in that attack, but I think partly because I wanted to see how between him and Mount. I think early indications are that Bruno will probably be a bit more central and Mount perhaps on the right, but they have been switching a little bit, and obviously it's early days. And I think they've got a couple more friendlies to go as well, quite big friendlies, so we'll see. We should get a better indication. Because I was thinking Mount could be a really good pick, but I think he's perhaps doing a bit more of the kind of pressing and hard work.
Yeah, 100%.
Will benefit Bruno even more. So, because Bruno has been lacking a bit of a partner there. Obviously Eriksen's a very good player, but it tends to be, Spence after about 60 minutes, trying to play in every game when he can't really do that anymore. So I think Mount will really help Bruno there.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, the problem with this is that, of course, it goes against one of your things that you've said, which is, of course, that you need a really solid bench, or you like having a solid bench. This is just removing a bench option from your team, because then Burmo has to come in, and then Bulldog is the first name on the bench instead of him. But if you're willing to risk that, it may be beneficial. Who knows? Well, there we go. Thank you very much for that, mate. Really, really good insight. Love particularly the depth in your team, although Fantasy Football Hub's AI is saying perhaps that might not be the most efficient way of playing. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. As Matthew mentioned, his final team reveal will be posted up on the site closer to the Game Week 1 deadline. But for now, a very good team rating, 94%, puts you in good stead with other managers we've had on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you all with the next one.